In this lesson, we're going to be talking about the uses of the application layer, or the purposes of the application layer. The application layer is the layer that sits the closest to the user. It's the layer that's responsible for a lot of the heavy lifting. What I mean by that is anything that an application needs to be handled in the application layer if it's not actually handled in a lower layer. TCP, for example, handles retransmissions. If you were using UDP in your application layer protocol and you needed messages to be re-delivered if they didn't actually get there, the application layer protocol would be responsible for handling that sort of thing, making sure that messages got from one end to another all the way through. Application layer protocols are things like remote login, so we would use Telnet or we might use SSH. File transfers, FTP, TFTP, electronic mail, SMTP, IMAP, POP. There are a number of other protocols like the server message block protocol, for example, that allows us to do things like transfer files from one system to another. DNS is an application layer protocol that allows us to look up IP addresses from host names. And of course, we've got HTTP, which is the hypertext transport protocol. We'll be going into several of these protocols in subsequent lessons in more detail so you can see the actual message level details of the protocols and see in many cases how they actually work and how the client and the server or the two different endpoints interact with one another in the specific messages that get sent back and forth. We'll be talking in more detail about these different application layer protocols, but as I said, at kind of a core functionality level, this is where the functionality actually touches the user. We've got things like HTTP, for example, which is the protocol that's used by the browser, which the user actually uses. So the browser uses HTTP. It's a protocol that's very, very close to the user. SMTP, same thing. You've got an email client that needs to send a message. That email client that you are using is actually using SMTP underneath. It's not actually sending a message to a lower layer, and that layer is sending SMTP. The application actually implements these protocols. Things that users actually need to do are handled by the application layer, not surprisingly, because the users use applications and the applications make use of application layer protocols. So as I said, we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of some of these protocols like HTTP and the various email protocols, some file transfer protocols, and we'll take a look at Telnet as well. And of course, we'll also dig into DNS because it's such a foundational protocol and it is at the application layer. But just at a high level, once again, the application layer protocols are the protocols that get implemented by the applications that the users use. And it's important to remember that distinction as opposed to the different layers that come below it, which these higher layer protocols make use of in transmission.